The holidays have come and gone, and all that remains are a pair of new socks in your drawer and the pieces of trash on the streets left from the fireworks 2 weeks ago. Back then, you, like many others, made yourself a promise. You promised yourself that this was finally going to be the year. This was going to be the decade, even, where you turn things around. And now, 2 weeks later, you find yourself wondering, why is this so hard? And I don't truthfully have an answer, but I can tell you something that might just make it easier. 18 months ago, I read a book, and in the book, the author used a metaphor. There's this stack of papers that you need to do something about, but you don't know exactly what's in there. And the stack's been there for a while. It won't go away by itself, obviously, but you haven't gotten yourself to do anything about it. And that's quite understandable. You don't know what's in there. There might be bills, or worse, an expulsion letter. So the stack stays. In the book, the author recommends that you ask yourself, what could I do about this metaphorical stack of papers? And would I do it? Never mind that you should sit down for an hour and crank through it, because it doesn't help anyone when you won't do it. So instead, you ask yourself, could I sit down for 10 minutes to read through some of the papers? Yeah. Would I do it? Maybe not. How about 5 minutes? And if that's still too much, how about I just take a peek at the very topmost paper and see what it says? You see, every year, everyone gets high off the New Year's rush, and they commit themselves to exercising every single day or eating healthier every day, ignoring the fact that they've made and broken those exact same promises many years before. So instead, I urge you to look for the intention behind the habit. Figure out, are you exercising because you want to be healthier or because you want to get swole? Do you want to read more to become smarter or just to expand your vocabulary? And once you know your intention, you can start asking yourself, what easier thing could I do that matches my original intention, and would I do it? You see, it's extremely hard to create new habits, and it's so much easier to just change existing ones. So instead of starting with a perfect new habit, start with a 5-minute walk every day. And once that becomes familiar, you can develop it and improve it. You start walking longer or running instead. And suddenly, this 5-minute walk that you started has become a 1-hour workout every single day. Just like we tend to bite off more than we can chew, the New Year's rush provokes us to take several such bites. Most of us commit not only to one hard new habit, but several at once. It's just unrealistic to expect that kind of change that fast. Luckily, most of our new habits are intertwined with the same intention. So pick one that's the most important to you, that's the most realistic, and that makes the biggest possible impact on your life. The cool thing about habits is that they tend to have a ripple effect. Working out means you have more energy to cook a proper meal, for example, instead of ordering out, assuming the intention is to get healthier. So start with one single important new habit. And then once you've got that locked down, you can start a new one. There's no one who says you can only start a new habit during New Year's. It might seem like a slow way of doing things, but it's the speed at which we have to take things if we want to make permanent positive changes to our lives. Just look to Matt Davila for someone who really understands the difficulty of developing multiple habits in a short period of time. Look for his video, 12 Habits That Changed My Life, where he talks about his experiment where he did 12 30-day challenges in a row for the past year. Can someone tell me why we start year-long or even lifelong habits when we don't know what benefit it'll really bring to us? We always start new habits with an expectation that we're going to get some positive benefit based on what other people around us have tried. But you're not other people, you're you. And Jimmy over here might be real happy because he's meditating for an hour every day, but you might just feel like you're wasting your time. I mean, it's no wonder that people quit their habits when every time it gets tough, they can rest easy, knowing they'll only have to do it for the rest of their lives. Instead, I say you stick with a shorter time period. A time period that seems more achievable and makes it easier to stick to your habits, but enough time that you also get to see and feel the positive benefits from the habit, assuming there will even be any. I'd recommend that you stick with your habit for at the very least 1 month. Personally, I've decided on 3 months. So every quarter, I sit down, I evaluate my habits for that quarter. I discard any I didn't like, and I add new ones to try out. This way, you can also change your lifestyle in a reasonably fast amount of time in case stuff happens and you just need to adapt. All the things I've mentioned so far aren't new, but this one is particularly important to me, and it's something I don't hear enough people say. We're all different, and what works for some people won't work for others. In the same vein, other people might be struggling for one reason, and you might have a completely different problem. Unless I knew you personally, it would be completely impossible for me to give you the exact piece of advice you'd need, but you know yourself, so give yourself that advice. You can do that by looking to the past, looking to past resolutions and years, and figuring out what went wrong, and then working to avoid it this time. You're pretty damn smart, no matter what you might be telling yourself, and the best way to get a better future is to learn from your past. You can figure out what goes wrong, and then you can work to avoid it this time. You just need to let yourself think it through. If you've got the memory of a squirrel, like I do, and you can't remember the previous years, learn from the present and set yourself up for next year. You can do this by having a failure diary. Every time you struggle or fail, you write down why, and then you adjust your habit just a tiny bit to avoid it in the future. Over time, you'll be able to develop a deep understanding of what makes you fail, and you'll be able to plan around that in the future. This failure diary will also be your biggest asset for next New Year's, when you set yourself a new resolution instead of repeating old ones.